Some of you have probably heard the story of the old Cherokee Indian warrior who was talking to his grandson about the battle that goes on within each one of us. He said, "Son, there are two wolves living within you. One is an evil wolf. It's anger, jealousy, and envy. It's regret and greed and arrogance and lies and false pride and superiority." But he said there's a second wolf within you. And that's a very good one. Joy and peace and love, humility and kindness, empathy, compassion, faith. As the grandson thought about that, he said, "Oh, which wolf will win? How will I know?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "It's the one that you feed, my son, the one that you feed." There's a great deal of truth to that saying. We all have a choice. There are negative things and positive things that draw us. And most of us know some people who are just drawn to the negative, and they're always looking for faults in others, and they're always focusing on things that are going wrong, and they're always placing blame. And the more they focus on the negative, the more negative they become. And there are others who are always looking at the glass as being half full, and they're looking at the good that they see in others and in the world around them. And the more they focus on the good and the kind, the better people they become. The more positive people they become. But there's also great biblical danger in that story. The danger is that it sounds like we can do this on our own. That if we just suck it up and try harder and focus on the right things, that we'll make ourselves into the kind of people that God wants us to be. We can't do that. Because the truth is, we're not born with a good wolf and a bad wolf as if there's equal play going on. We're born with a sinful nature. Our hearts are inclined to going the wrong direction, not in the right direction. That's why we've been looking at the truths of Romans chapter 12 the last 5 weeks. And we started by remembering that everything asked of us in this chapter is possible only because of and through God's mercies to us. It all starts with Him. Unless God works within us first and begins to change us from the inside out, we're not going to be the kind of people that's described here. We need His mercy first. And even when we receive it, we have to present ourselves as that living sacrifice. We have to make ourselves available at God's disposal. We have to be willing to say, "God, you've got free reign in my life. You can change what you need to change. You may do what you need to do so that I can become a follower of Christ." The truth is, we can't do it. Only Christ can do it living through us. Only when we open our lives to Him and say, "Lord Jesus, work in me. Make me into your image," will it begin to happen. But as we do that, as we open our lives to Him, then we begin to understand just how difficult it is for us to be changed. There we finish Romans chapter 12, starting with verse 14. "Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not think you are superior. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge. I will repay,' says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." The grass withers and the flowers fade, but the words of our God abide forever. The last few weeks you've been looking at some of these tests, and we kind of wrap it up today. But as we wrap it up, we're aware that these tests may be a lot harder than they first appear. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. What does it mean to have someone persecute you? It means they're doing or saying unfair, malicious things. They are mistreating you simply because of who you are. It's got nothing to do with you having done something to provoke it. Because of the person you are, because of the faith you hold, they are out to get you. And they will do whatever it takes to do just that. They're going after you. Some of that's because when we live with Christ within us, there's a light that shines out. And that light exposes the darkness in other people, and they don't want to see it. And so they'll do anything they can to get rid of the light. And so they will come after us. So how do we respond to that? Bless them. I don't want to bless you, but we bless them. We genuinely wish God's good favor upon them and their family and their circumstances. We ask God to be gracious to them, to let the light of His presence shine into their lives and do good to them. Bless all that they want and all that they need. And to mean it when we say it. Not just to go through the motions, pay lip service, but actually mean it. I think that's why it says, bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse. You can't publicly be saying nice things about them or to them and under your breath be muttering about them or saying nasty things behind their back. It's not an option for us. To bless them is to have complete harmony of our thoughts, our words, our deeds. It's to be consistent in every way, asking God's very best upon the person who are especially mean to us. That doesn't make any sense. So why do we do it? Because Jesus did it. And if we are followers of Jesus, we don't have the option when He gets to a difficult cross-section to say, okay, Christ, you keep going that way, but I'm going this way. That's too hard. I don't want to do that. If we are followers of Christ, then we must live as Christ lived. And what did Jesus do as He was hanging on the cross, looking down at the very people who nailed Him there? He prayed, Father, forgive them. Wipe the slate clean. Let them experience your grace and your mercy. Forgive them. Because they don't really know what they're doing. If He could pray that and mean it, and He did, then we had no choice but to do the same. Well, how do we do it? How do we get our lives lined up with God in this area? Here's the step that I take. The first is I need to identify that person or those persons who are most mean to me because of my faith. And yeah, I've got somebody that I'm working on this way. The second thing I need to do is I need to honestly examine my attitude towards that person and confess my attitude as sin to God. See, what I'd rather do is confess the wrongs of that person to God. I'd rather focus on what they're doing wrong. But the challenge is to say, no, God, I need to look at me. I need to focus on what's going on in my life. And where that's not right, I need to confess that. But it's not just enough to confess it and admit it's wrong. I then have to take the proactive step. With no strings attached, I have to ask God to bless this person, to be favorable to them. And then I need to entrust the results to God, which I think is the hardest test of all. Giving this person to God and say, God, be good to them, be gracious. And then if He actually does that, not to begrudge it, not to resent the fact that He's doing what I asked Him to do because I had to ask Him to. We go on. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. That doesn't seem hard. We do that. It comes natural to us with our friends and family at least. When somebody's celebrating, they're rejoicing, we want to enter into their joy and celebrate with them. And when they're deeply grieving a loss, we empathize with them. And we want to walk with them through that grief and help them and encourage them in any way we can. That seems pretty easy. But what about when you and a coworker both put in for the same promotion, and he or she gets it and you don't? You're going to celebrate with them? They're rejoicing, they're celebrating, they're excited. And you're supposed to enter into that with them. How do you do that? Or what about when a friend is grieving a broken, unhealthy relationship? You're excited because the relationship has ended. You know it was not a good one. But they're deeply grieving it. How do you enter into their grief? Rather than saying, get over it, say good anyway. The only way we can do that is to try and ask God to help us to put ourselves into their shoes for a moment. To see the situation from their life, whether it's the joy or the mourning. Say, God, help me to see it from their perspective and to identify. Again, we do this because Jesus did this. You may remember what happened when Jesus stood at the graveside of his good friend Lazarus. Now, Jesus had a plan. He was going to bring Lazarus back to life. Everybody would be celebrating. But they weren't celebrating at the time. They were deeply grieving. We read that Jesus stood with them and Jesus wept. Not crocodile tears, pretending to identify it, even though he knew what he was going to do. But genuine grief. Because he saw firsthand the depth of the pain caused by death as a result of sin. And he understood that. And he identified with people in their situation. And so if we are to walk in his footsteps, we have to be willing to put ourselves in another situation and to identify with what they're going through. Live in harmony with one another. Don't be proud or think you're superior. Might come as a newsflash to you, but there are some Christians with whom it's very hard to be harmonious. There are some Christians who are just obnoxious people. We don't like them. We don't like their lifestyle. We don't like their politics. We don't like their theology. We just don't like them. They're Christians, but they sure are different. And we don't want to be in harmony. And this thing about don't be proud or think you're superior. Whether we admit it or not, all of us do that. We have this continuum of life. And we analyze our experiences, our skills, our education, our training, our bank accounts, whatever it is, and we place ourselves on this continuum. And we know that some people are better than us and some people are worse than us. It's just the way we live. Except that God is not impressed by our continuum. God isn't impressed by the way we measure these things. And so he says to us, be willing to associate with people of low position. Go out of your way to identify with them. Not just in a casual way, but befriend them. Get to know them. Learn from them. Value them. Expect that I will teach you and make you more the person I want you to be by using their influence in your life. Why should we do it? Because Jesus did it. Matthew 11:29. Jesus says, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. He's the eternal King of kings, the Lord of all glory. No one is above him. He didn't have to identify with anybody. But he walked the dusty roads of Galilee. And the religious leaders were infuriated